you plan on somebody coming in to do something, or the principal has, or the guidance counselor has to say, hey, can you get Joey from point A to point B? And there's so many ways that breaks down right now, and it's nobody's fault. And so this was a major issue that we saw looking at patterns at the middle school. So that's why we feel, and at the high school, it's, we talked about that, having people that make large amounts of money doing the supervision piece, and we need more supervision. And that's a way for us to provide more supervision, being proactive. One lawsuit's gonna cost way more. And that's the thing, we're trying to be proactive and keep ourselves.
So get the administrators off bathroom guard duty
Well,
at the high
that's what,
school?
if you have
Yeah.
these people that'll help do that
what I
for
wanna
4
know.
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Because
Well, that's always been the
because it,
question.
that's
even
actually the
lunchroom
complete
duty.
cost justification. I showed you, this came up during the
Yeah.
vaping meeting.
Right.
And one of the administrators, in passing mentioned, I spend about this much time per day. And I
It's like, are
whipped
you
out the
kidding me?
calculator on my phone.
Oh,
and
yeah.
These people are being paid
and-
big bucks to
Yeah.
supervise, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
As much as we're paying her to sit in front of the bathroom per year is actually how much
So-
it'll cost us to hire
Right.
one supervisory
And-
assistant.
Exactly. 4 hours.
Right.
That will be able to, we have really
craziness and they
large
can do all this
buildings.
stuff.
And when kids are in class, we don't have people just walking the halls, making sure we know where kids are and that things are safe. And, hey, there's not a stray bag that nobody can identify sitting in a hallway somewhere. There are safety reasons. There are community culture reasons. I've been in buildings where this is the norm, and you know it when you walk in that building. There's a feeling
Big impact.
of calmness, and kids know, you never know where that supervisory assistant's gonna be in the hallway asking you for that pass, that you have to be accountable. So, things starting to tighten up, and it just creates a sense of calmness, because there are always 4 eyes somewhere in that building, and our buildings are huge.
And we have teachers, so we do have teachers as duties
Right, I know
throughout.
they do.
But they can't be everywhere, And the other thing too is that, I know this came up before, I'm happy that our administrators spend time in the cafeterias, because I think it's a great way
Yeah,
to
they
build
get to see the
relationships.
kids, yeah.
So this isn't, because we've heard that argument before, and I think it's important for them to be in there.
Mm-hmm.
So that isn't just freeing them up all the time, but allows some flexibility, because we do need it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so flexibility to lead meetings, to lead professional development, to do, work with a department. But it's really around supervision, and I think, we hear that from everybody, providing more supervision, and I think this is a way for a small amount of money that we can do that. And I think, at least on the record, I feel that's why we kept it. In the
Right.
past, we've got, but, we hear of safety, and we talk about school safety all the time, so.
The middle school and I had a half-hour conversation the other day about the lunchroom, and they're still trying to make that lunchroom better. And although it's worlds better than what it was, they want to make it better yet. And during that time, a half hour is a long time for them to be in that environment, and they need to get some movement, but they don't have any bodies. They're like, we'll take the kids for a walk, we'll go, to the other cafeteria and run a game with the kids. They don't have any bodies to do that with right now. So as much as we tried to brainstorm, okay, how can we make that happen? We're out of ideas because nobody's available.
Okay.
Mr. Pearson, just one thing too, the MTP portal, we're just in the 3rd year, so communities were divided into 3 phases.
I understand
We were
that.
in the 2nd one, so that could be why
That's
not
probably
all the
why some communities are not in there yet.
Right,
They're in that other phase.
They'll be in that 3rd year, and I think some of the bigger communities were in.
I was looking
phase
for
3, but I'd
some to
have go
compare
back.
us to. I know East
Yeah.
Providence kind of is
Yep.
the same size, and Cumberland is not quite on here yet. So,
But I'm glad you're looking at it.
yeah, because the RIDE actually used to produce data like this, the pie chart
Right.
of where money was going, and they stopped doing it, which was very frustrating. To see this, it's a bar graph, but it's good, just
Right.
as good as a pie chart. You can see where the money's going or coming from.
So any other staffing questions? So, and I will, you did, let's see, clip to that little summary, is a thick document. It's about 21 pages. So this is our general fund staffing. This is the way it kind of sorts from the computer. So the only slightly confusing part is that we could have one person in here multiple times because they're split between lines. So if you see that percent per UCOA, just to give you an example, like that one means 100% of their salary is in that line. But if you go down half the page, you'll see one in athletics where it only shows 0.5. So only half of their salary is hitting that line. The rest of them live somewhere else. If it's a true part-time position, that's in the position FTE where it says 0.5, 0.6, and so on. And that's sorted by subject and by school as it is right now. All right, so then moving on, this is what the summary budget will look like. So again, that's this front piece, which is in the same format that I used to do the monthly reports on. So again, what's included in there are the staffing adjustments that we just went over, some of the line item changes that we had talked about on Monday that Mr. Pearson had brought up, and then the transportation contract. When we looked at the transportation contract, and I will get into this further in the open or regular business section of the meeting, but we did meet with the vendor that we'll be selecting, and we did let them know that they were slightly higher than what we had wanted. They did sharpen their pencil. We had confirmed with Mr. Anderson that that was okay to do with the low bidder. So they did sharpen their pencil some, especially in year one. And I do anticipate additional savings in out of district. We will work with them to kind of revamp the out-of-district program, and instead of using the big buses, use minivans. So I anticipate that that will come down, or I hope that will come down. But really, we can't do that until, one, we award the contract, and two, they have to start looking at the roster, excuse me, of the students who are going out of district, and they really will have to kind of rework that whole plan to see if we can maximize minivans or smaller buses to get those costs down. So that's kind of where I'm hoping that we go. But right now, the impact from the previous year is about a 2.75% increase in the transportation from last year to this year. So all in all, it was okay. I sat with Jason and we went through this year, and we looked like we had a little extra wiggle room in the fuel line this fiscal year. We did drop from 34 to 33 buses, so we have a little bit of wiggle room that we've accounted for in other areas of the budget in FY19. But when you look at cost over cost, it wasn't as bad as when we first looked at those numbers, the net impact. And all new buses, new propane buses. So we'll talk about that more in open session. So I'm gonna just click on here. So once we have that final budget, we calculate the 1.5%, which shows that we have the capital requirement of 1.1 million. Again, we have the bottom half numbers, the 475 and the 79,000 already in the budget. So that balance of the 557, we had already decided on the HVAC and the gym floor, and that 21,000, it's not really enough to do any of those big capital projects that we had put on there, but it might be money that we can use towards like the intercom system at one of the smaller schools that we had put forward for approval now. So I am confident that we have $21,000 worth of capital improvements that we can find that money on, but we don't have that targeted just yet. And we should note too that where this 557 is, last year we really did ask her about 800,000 in capital. They didn't approve it, but that is what was approved by the school committee last year and that we did turn into the town. Any questions on that before I go forward? Okay. So to summarize the total request, we have the 1.864 million for operations. The capital request, I had the 557, but then I anticipate the 32,000 coming back, which is the 44% of the impact fees that we'll use this fiscal year, for a total increase in appropriations of 2,389,553. Again, just as a reminder, last year in the operating request, our original request was 1,887,000. And then we asked where this 557 is, we asked for 800,000. It just looks different because we're consolidating it this year because we really have to, from a state perspective, to show that we're meeting that 1.5%. So the FY19 appropriation was a 45,960. The requested appropriation for operations would be 48,086,000. And then the net request for appropriation would be 525,379 for a total FY20 requested appropriation of 48,349,668. And then this is just to support, so once we get to that motion level, to show what the total budget is. And again, I had to kind of combine the general fund and the capital budget. This format could change going forward once we get more guidance from the state as to how all of these funds are going to flow together. But I think for now, it's important to call out the general fund and the capital expenditures, but to acknowledge that it's really a combined requirement that we have at this point in time. When we spend that capital money, it will be tracked in a separate fund so that we can easily track that housing aid reimbursement coming back in. But for budgeting and reporting, we'll need to net it out. And then just to update the slide, when I had asked what the max increase was, Mr. Arnett had said that it would be the 2.785 million. Our request is at 2.389 million and leaving the remaining levy of 395,496. So a little bit better than where we were at on Monday. I do think the town is very well aware of this capital requirement, so they know that that is going to fold into part of this request. And we also did make it clear last year what the requirements would be going forward once we approved all of the contracts, the increase that they gave us last year was going to have to continue for a little bit longer to sustain our contractual costs. So that's kind of where we stand right now.
Any feedback?
Just doing great work. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
At this point in time.
James?
You want more feedback from me?
Sure, asking.
I will echo Dave and say, good work, absolutely, because this is a monumental task, especially not having numbers yet, because we have this accelerated budget timeline we're stuck with now, which I will complain about till the day I die.
Me too.
Still trying to figure out how that.
Yeah. I got, I don't have any questions or concerns for you. It's all gonna be about, the other folks. Are they going to be willing to support this budget? Sorry, more graphs. So, I'm good. I have no more. I think I've asked enough questions this
Okay.
year.
I
We
do
know that
appreciate
this whole
them. Yeah.
process has been accelerated and, we're getting information on the fly. So I don't really think we're withholding, we just.
No, I don't
it's
think you're
the best
withholding
thing-
at
No, but I
all.
want to be clear that things change constantly, and that's why, a couple of things when we presented in the town manager and the finance director, we presented a range before. Because, but we're trying to be as realistic as we can be right now. But I think what's clear is that in the past, just the takeaway for me is that while the number is 2.3, it's really the 1.8 million plus the capital, and we're combined together because we have to for this process and what the ride is requiring. But it's like last year we asked for 800,000 in capital. So when you look at the ask, it's just how we're framing it, how we have to put the motion forward tonight. But it's because when I first saw it too, I'm looking at it, it's a big number. We know that, but we continue to work with the finance director and with the town manager. They know we'll be coming back in meeting, and we know we'll be coming back to you. We have a meeting in 2 weeks. 28th, we'll be coming back, and whatever information we have at that time, we'll bring that forward.
I mean, they must think the new arrangement with the capital budget's a great idea because, you know, I'm not poking fun, so if he's watching. Mr. LeBassonaire's proposal at the legislators meeting was essentially saying, hey, state, make us set aside some capital because we can't do it on our own, which was, in my opinion, this whole reaction was school districts across the state just were not allocating money toward capital and the infrastructure. And it's very, very painful. It's going to continue to be painful until things settle out after we get to that 3%, if they ever settle out once we get to that 3%.
And I think
But on the flip side, we're going to have improvements to our buildings that we haven't had in decades without a bond.
Right.
So I'm, you know, I like a more capital. I just wish they didn't have to get to the point where they forced us to do it. I wish it was more of a community agreement that we should be putting capital into our infrastructure. So,
I think definitely some towns are better at it than we are.
oh, for sure. Some
Much
towns are
better.
worse.
I mean, and that some school districts have other ways that they can put money into, like a rainy day fund or whatever. And that's in this state. We've never been able to do that, which is like awful. So, there's not really any long-term planning, like when it's good, you do X.
Yeah.
When it's tight, you do Y, and then there's a coming of the side. So I'm very hopeful that, it seems like you're talking well with the people that are in charge over at the town. Here, actually, we're here, than has happened in the past. And so we'll just hope that the town council is not gonna just say, okay, we have to cut it, you know, on both sides, because I assume, you know, I don't know what they're gonna say, I'm just hopeful. We won't
Find
know,
out,
we won't know until.
Our first budget hearing is
Yeah,
March, what did we say, March 4th?
Fourth, I
March
think,
4th.
yeah.
But I do anticipate having another meeting even once we send this over to
Right.
them tomorrow, you know, assuming that the
But
school
you didn't
committee
get
votes
this
to.
feeling like they were absolutely shocked, right, from them?
I didn't get the feeling that they were absolutely shocked. I got the feeling that they're saying, how are we gonna make the numbers work?
Yeah.
You know, and
that's a
that's
start
the
at
hard
least.
part. We know this is a big ask. We know what that looks like against the levy. And we know the financial conditions of the town.
Yeah, I know.
Unfortunately, every department is hurting a little bit. So I don't think that there is a level of unawareness anymore in the town hall that maybe had once been there.
Did you take Mr. Wazika as well?
And in fairness, a lot of what was frozen was discretionary. If they still asked me for a need to run a class, I did not deny it. It was more some of those new initiatives that they were trying to do. But I think with some of the staffing ads and with them having an active hand in the budget, assuming that we can go forward with this and assuming that we don't have any wild card staffing issues like we did this year,
Yeah.
I think that there is enough in here to actually move things forward, though. I think it's thought out even once we called down the positions, that we can start making some steps even with the constraints and the magnitude of work that we have.
We met last time that people truly trust that what's being brought forward is actual, like, there's not, when I first got here, like, I had to listen to the history and all the games that were played and why people didn't trust, and I feel like we finally overcome that. Now, when we come March 4th, maybe a different show, you know, but I'm not expecting that. So I think that a lot of people have worked really hard on this, and like I said, it started with 33 positions that were being asked. We've narrowed it down. And so, and I think, you know, all the other variables, you know, I think Sarah and Jason did an excellent job working with John for bid specs for
Yeah.
and we'll talk about that.
Yep.
I think that there's a lot of good work that's being done, and, you know, this will be a challenging year, but you know, the next few years will be. The last thing I'll say though is that in terms of long-term plan, once we're done with the budget process, and probably sometime in March, we'll start looking at using that technical assistance money to come up with
Right.
that long-term plan.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think that'll be important opportunity for this community because it hasn't happened, you know?
No, I agree.
So anyways, I know we've got to get moving into the executive
Yeah.
session.
So I do want to as well thank all the, Sarah, obviously, and all of the feedback you got from central office, the people, all the people that helped you work on this budget and came forward and tried their best to put together a budget that was fair
Thank you.
and full of what we really need.
Mhm.
So I really appreciate the work, believe me.
Thank you.
A+, right?
A+, yes. Okay, so I guess we can, is there a motion to recess into executive session?
Make motion to recess into executive session
And I have 6:49.
at 6:49 PM.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Excuse me, Kathy Patino,
Yes.
Dave Florio,
Yes.
James Pearson.
Yes.
All right, we will return. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to reconvene the open session of our school committee meeting, and I have 7 o'clock. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you could remain standing for a moment of silence as we consider the work before us this evening. You may be seated. And Superintendent Levis, if you could notify the public of the emergency exits, please.
Sure, and in case of an emergency, if there are exits at the rear, go out the exit and you can exit to either left or your right. Thank you.
And thank you. Mr. Florio, if you could do the honor of reading the mission statement for Coventry Public Schools.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Coventry Public Schools, with community partnerships, educate, inspire, and motivate students to be lifelong learners.
Thank you. And just to notify the public, we had an executive session for about 10 minutes before this session, at which time we looked at our homeschool requests, and we approved our executive session minutes of 1/24/19. Those votes were unanimous, 3-0. That being said, is there a motion to seal the records of executive session?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to seal the records of executive session.
Is there a
Second.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye and opposed. The ayes have it. Motion carries 3-0. Moving on to the approval of our minutes from our open sessions that were in our packet. Reference number 1. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the open meetings of January 24th, 2019, February 4th, 2019, parentheses budget workshop, and February 4th, 2019, parentheses joint school committee / town committee legislative meeting as presented / amended.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 3-0. Moving on to item number 6, our personnel. Is there Mr. Levis, did you want to speak to any of these?
As stated, please.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the resignation of Jill Haig, inclusion teacher at Tioga Elementary School, effective February 7th, 2019.
Second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 3-0. Moving on to the resignation of Erin Preston. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the resignation of Erin Preston, music teacher for the for the district, effective January 31st, 2019.
Second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 3-0. Moving on to Kelly Gervasini.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the resignation of Kelly Gervasini, pre-kindergarten special ed teacher at Washington Oak Elementary School, effective June 30th, 2019.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 3-0. Moving on to certified leaves of absence. Any comments from the superintendent?
No, stated.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve Nicole Talbot?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve a paid leave of absence for Nicole Talbot, ESL teacher for the district, from approximately June 14, 2019 till July 26, 2019.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 3-0. Moving on to classified resignations. Again, any comments from the superintendent?
No, as stated.
Okay, is there a motion to approve Linda Springer?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the resignation of Linda Springer, 7/day school clerk at Washington Oak Elementary, effective April 30th, 2019, for the purpose of retirement.
Second the motion?
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 3-0. Moving on to Michelle Boyso.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the resignation of Michelle Boyso, 4-hour / registered nurse / school nurse support for the district, effective February 8th, 2019.
Second the motion?
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 3-0. Moving on to Joyce Jablocki.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the resignation of Joyce Jablocki, interview only, 4-hour / day, teacher assistant intensive support life skills at Coventry High School, effective June 13th, 2019, or the last day of 2018/19 school year.
I second the motion?
Any concerns from the committee? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 3-0. Moving on to Bethany Horn.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the resignation of Bethany Horn, 6.5-hour / day, COTA for the district, effective February 5th, 2019.
I second the motion?
I did have a question. What does COTA stand for?
Certified Occupational
okay.
Therapy Assistant.
Assistant. Oh, okay. Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 3-0. Moving on finally to the coach resignation. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the resignation of William Brew, assistant boys baseball coach at Coventry High School, retroactive to January 24th, 2019.
Second the motion?
See that?
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 3-0. Moving on to the public agenda. The following agenda items are open to the public and open to discussion. If there is a motion taken on a vote by the school committee, the public can respond, ask questions, have any concerns before the actual vote is taken. That being said, I think we're ready to go to agenda item number 7, which is the celebration Young Children's Champion Award, which was our reference number 3, and I assume you're going to take that, Mr. Levis.
I'm gonna pass the buck, but I'll take it initially. So last, and bear with me, I apologize for my soothing voice, but last Monday, we were invited to attend Rhode Island Kids Count, had their first annual Young Children's celebration, and they chose 4 organizations to give Young Champion awards to, and Coventry was the only school district that was chosen. And I'm going to have Denise come up in a minute, if you don't mind, Denise, to talk a little bit about some of the information why we were given. But it's really a celebration for everybody in our district, that pre-K to the students working with the age of 8, which there are many individuals in the room tonight, that have worked and supported students, that were advocates for helping us. Just think 3 short years ago, we were half-day kindergarten, right? This is our 3rd year, I think, of all-day K. And our pre-Ks had a 1-star rating, Bright Stars. And fast forward, all the work that people have done, we're at a 4, moving towards a 5-star rating. And we look at the impact that kindergarten has had, the all-day K, on our students. And we look at all the other supports that we have, the intensive programs around students with exceptionalities. And it was nice for us to be recognized for the work that's being done by Rhode Island Kids Count. Which, if one thing is that they do a great job at, is collecting data and using data to leverage policy and resources. So I think for us to be recognized was a great honor. We had 10 individuals. I wish we could have invited everybody, but we had a table of 10. So, Denise, do you mind coming up a little bit and sharing a few words? I don't mean to put you on the spot. And then I'll pass around. We received a nice picture, and no, that's not me when I was a little child. Though I would love to have that hair. And we had a couple of citations from, so I'll pass this down, a couple of citations from, one from the governor, I believe, and one from Senator Cicilline. Do you mind saying a few things about it? I don't.
So this was the first year for this award, so we really do not know the full criteria as to how we were chosen. It is based on work people are doing for all.
Can you put the microphone on? There you go.
It's based on the work for all children in early childhood. So our district has lots of initiatives we're doing.
If you talk into the mic, we'll be
Yeah, I
helpful.
will. Including the itinerant model work we're doing, our Bright Stars rating, our kindergartens are doing the Boston curriculum pilot. So we have lots of activities going on in the district. And I guess that's why we got the award.
I'm sure that's why we got the award.
And
I
I
want to
would
thank you
have,
for your work. and for the-
unfortunately, because I found out Monday, none of my teachers could come. Lisa's here, our child outreach. I don't think anybody else did. They're all have young children at home, so unfortunately with 3 days' notice, they couldn't rearrange. The one that was coming, April, just texted me, she has a fever, so she stayed home. But really, all the work goes to them. I mean, they work very, very hard in those classrooms. I put tons of work on them and very high expectations, and they don't complain. They take it on because they see the importance of early childhood education too. Like today, we sat and talked about, we have our next Bright Stars visit. Apparently, this award has rushed our window, and we got our window, and it's March 4th. For our visit, and so I'm prepping them. And we have a lot of new teachers, so they're really getting nervous, but they were studying the papers and working hard because it's important to them, just as everyone else, and they work hard for our kids. And we'll see what's next. Maybe
I
state
want to
pre-K.
thank you. I'm sure they would also say that you're a great leader, so they're happy to work and put this together and make it happen. I've been amazed at, the fact that we've gone to the 4 stars, and I can only imagine we're going to go to 5 stars, so.
It's pretty challenging. Honestly, it's very challenging.
I know.
We've
seen the
We have our
presentations a couple of
5. There are
times.
6 categories. We have the 5 in every category, but the environments.
Right.
The environments is that Eckers visit. We have things we can't ever get a high rating on. We lose points, for example, and hopefully when universal pre-K comes in, they will adjust this system, because we lose points because our families cannot walk down to the classroom. That's a school safety thing, and that's not going to change. So there's areas we just have to take a hit on, but we lose, it actually, that drops us in that category pretty far, and then it's averaged out. So there's some things we'll never be able to fix, but they're working pretty hard on everything they're in control of, and all the important categories, they get very high ratings on. So
So, well,
we'll see what
congratulations.
happens.
Very happy.
Thank you.
Please bring our congratulations to the rest of your team. Any comments from the rest of the gang? We're good?
Good.
I could sing We Are the Champions, but I already tried to do that and was told that they didn't want to hear it again, so just imagine me singing We Are the Champions. Don't ask me why it's even in my head, but I don't know. The award says champions. Anyway, okay. What's the matter? I know. So I guess Mr. Florio's going to start.
Moving on.
Moving on to 8, which is the discussion approval of the field trip, and I believe Master Chief is here if we have any questions. It was our reference number 4. Did anybody want to speak about it, or? did
No,
you
I
wanna
think,
speak
in
about
fact,
it, Chief
just
Master?
because our policy says that we have to bring these forward
Exactly.
overnight in more than 100 miles. So, I think people were comfortable. I don't want to speak for anybody last time, but we
We just want to make
appreciate you
sure
being here in case there are questions. But I fully support it. I think it's a great opportunity and a great trip. And
Yeah. Sounds like a great time, a great learning environment too. Any questions from anybody else? All right, is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the field trip for the Navy Junior ROTC to travel to Washington, D.C. from April 25th, 2019 to April 28th, 2019.
Second the motion?
Any other questions from us? Anything from the public? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 3-0. And by the way, I should have asked you on our previous discussion on the champion award. Were there any comments from anybody gathered? Any questions about that or? Okay, sorry. Sometimes I forget to ask, so I apologize. So moving on to number 9, which is the distribution materials policy, which was our reference number 5. I think we know exactly what the policy says.
I'm sorry, it's Can I just say,
Yeah, did you have anything?
no, just add, I don't know if you remember, just like we did with the credit limit policy for food service, we're gonna, Mrs. McDonald and I are working on, we drafted a form because part of the implementation is that we have to annually have nonprofits come in.
Right.
And so we have that, and also there'll be I'll develop a protocol like we did with the other process. So we'll roll that out Monday. So if this is approved tonight.
All right. Is there a motion to dispense with the first reading?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to dispense with the first reading of the revised distribution of materials policies, non-school sponsored organizations as KDC parentheses. Whatever, what is that?
That's the number of the policy.
Okay, as presented / amended.
Second the motion?
Sorry, Jim. Sorry, Craig.
Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 3-0. Moving on to the actual approval of the distribution materials policy. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the distribution of materials policy, non-school sponsored organizations as presented / amended.
Second the motion?
Any further comments or concerns from the committee? Anything from the public? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 3-0. And I just want to follow up again with a huge thank you to the people who worked on revising this policy and getting something that was palatable to this community. Moving on to 10, discussion and approval of the transportation contract bid award, our reference number 6. It looks like someone might be in the audience, that might be someone from a bus company, because someone is wearing a bus tie. But outside of that, I have no idea who you might be.
So this is Keith Galloway and Tony Margot from Ocean State.
Hi.
In your packet, you have the bid recommendation
Yep.
for the transportation contract. We had a public bid opening on January 31st. We had 2 vendors submit bids, First Student and Ocean State. We did get bids from First Student for diesel buses as well as propane, and Ocean State provided a propane contract. Propane was really the direction that we had wanted to head. It's the direction a lot of districts around the state are heading to, and it also allowed us to get an entirely new fleet of buses. So as you know, the contract that we have right now had been extended several years back. So most of our buses are over 10 years old with over 100,000 miles on them. So we really needed to look at, one, going out to bid and also updating our fleet. We did receive the bids in, and Ocean State was the lowest bid. It was slightly higher than what we had budgeted for. So on the recommendation of Mr. Anderson, we did meet with Ocean State, and they also agreed to come down a little bit lower in the price, especially in that first year. It is a 3-year contract with 2 one-year options to renew. We want to keep in mind that they are really fronting us an entirely new fleet of buses. So that is why it wouldn't really make sense to go for a 1-year contract. Even a 3-year is tough because they're making a significant upfront investment to our community. So they are here if you have any specific questions about their company, organization, the propane buses. I'm sure. But if you have any other questions for me financially, you have their proposal in there, and all of this is included in the FY20 budget.
I don't have any questions about the bid. Were there any questions from any of you? I did have a couple of questions about the company because I didn't have time to actually Google search you and see who you are. I know Ocean State sounds like it's a Rhode Island company, but I'm not even sure. So if you could just give us a quick brief, where do you come from? How long have you been around and all that good
This
stuff?
is like coming home for me.
Yeah.
I've lived in this town for 35 years, so I'm very familiar with Coventry. My dad ran the buses here from 1980 to 1985, and then 1990 to 1992 when we sold the Laidlaw back in those days.
So it was like Coventry.
Yeah, it was
business?
right after Kid Archambault got out of the school bus business and concentrated on coach buses from the 70s. So we're certainly glad to be back. I'm glad to be back. Tony actually managed this contract for Town and Country in 1989. So we do have some
Roots back
roots
there.
planted here in Coventry. So Ocean State is a subsidiary of Student Transportation of America. We operate in 32 states across the United States. So it's I think we're the third largest school bus company in the United States. But we operate as local companies. And Tony is the guy that's going to be actually running this contract. He manages the whole state of Rhode Island and has contracts in Connecticut, from Greenwich all the way over to Groton and Waterford, Ledyard, I don't know wherever it's got. Here in Rhode Island, we run East Providence.
Okay.
We have East Greenwich, we have Foster, we have Exeter West Greenwich, we have Charahoe, and we have South Kingston. So we've got the support staff that we need in the surrounding contracts to provide quality, safe service. Tony?
And you will love your propane buses.
I'm gonna leave
bet.
the propane to him, he's an
Yeah.
expert.
We have propane in South Kingston. We just did a contract in Exeter, which was our business. The week turn over to propane, East Greenwich is propane, East Providence is propane, and you guys are gonna really love the maintenance free, they're really great.
Yeah, that diesel exhaust doesn't get sucked into the buildings anymore. That's the
Great,
big
great
thing.
point. They also start easier in the wintertime.
Yeah.
So right now, we have some challenges with diesel fuel, as we all know. You either plug in the bus or the fuel gels and the buses don't run very long. And it's immediate heat in a propane bus also. So in the wintertime, you don't have to run down the road in a diesel bus before the heat starts to generate.
kick in.
It's immediate. Much quieter, so buses going through neighborhoods we should not get so many calls that we have loud buses
to see
going
that.
down some of our neighborhoods, including mine.
Yeah.
And again, it's green, and yes, while they're parked at schools, there's no
None of that.
emissions. So it's much safer
That's
for
great.
the students.
Wonderful. I love your tie.
Thank you. It's a Save the Children tie, so you
Oh, it
contribute and it
is.
goes to special needs
good.
children.
Oh, nice.
Yes,
Well, it's nice meeting you both, and
For the opportunity.
thank you. Looking forward to partnering
right.
with Coventry Public Schools.
sounds good. All right, any
Thank you.
questions for them? We're good? All right, is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that, to approve the bid award for student transportation to Ocean State Transit Limited Liability Corporation for the fiscal years 2019, 2020 for 3 years with 2 additional 1-year options to extend at the rates presented.
Any further questions from anyone? Anything from the public or comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 3-0. And I just want to follow up with a thank you for getting the best possible price, and we look forward to working with you. Seeing your new buses on the road.
Thank you.
So, you're welcome. Moving on to discussion and approval of our FY20 budget, number 11. I assume that's Sarah again.
I'm not sure how much further you want to go in after the discussion at 6.
Yeah, I
So-
think we're good.
Okay.
I don't know if the public, yeah, if you.
What?
James said, oh, I have a few more questions. But he was teasing.
Was he?
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
All
I
right,
don't know if you
just
had,
checking.
yeah, I don't think that before we move on, did the public have any questions, or are you pretty much, you're just gonna wait it out? figure it out? You're good? Okay. I'm good. Mr. Superintendent, are you good?
Vote away.
All right. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the preliminary fiscal year 2020 budget for general fund operations and capital requirement in the amount of $74,701,168 with $48,349,688
68.
$668, excuse me, Madam
That's
Chair,
all right.
coming from local appropriations.
Second the motion?
Any further questions from the committee? Anything from the public? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 3-0. Moving on to 12, Superintendent's Report. Mr. Levis.
I will try to be brief.
What do you got?
You can't talk too much, man. I've been in a pool.
Yeah.
So I just want to talk about, I want to thank Mr. Lucian, Ms. Andrews. I want to thank the police, Captain Skorsky and Officer Pacheco. On Monday, the 28th, we did a presentation around school safety at the middle school. I was very impressed considering, and not to qualify, I thought we had a good crowd, good questions were asked. But really considering some of the presentations we've had on the vaping at the high school, we had, 14 individuals, presentation on school, on social media and cyberbullying, and by the state police last spring, I believe we had 7 individuals and 4 of them were teachers. So it was nice to see people there, and I wanted to thank the community. And we're going to be doing more presentations. We'll have the U.S. Attorney's Office, actually through Lisa Neal's husband, David Neal, connected us with a gentleman that'll be presenting around, against cyber bullying and social media and the internet. And he has a presentation he'll be doing, so we'll be hosting that. So I just wanted to talk about that in terms of the school safety. Another thing is, we talked about, and an outcome of that meeting too, was talking about having a community advisory board, having, a group of citizens that can come and we can talk about issues. It could be school safety. And so there's a couple of people that had met with me after that meeting that are interested in helping pull that together. So in the next few months, we'll figure out how we'll orchestrate that and invite community members to participate. It'll be nice to have another voice and another group of individuals. So, and the last thing I just wanted to say was I wasn't able to make the legislative meeting, but I did watch it. And there were some conversations pertaining to the question around CTE. Yeah. There were some comments that were made around education and school choice. And, there's a lot that goes into a scenario, a lot of reasons why. Like I went to Catholic schools my whole life, and it was just, I was born in the 60s a Catholic, and we were poor, but that's what people did. You went to Catholic school, and I went to Catholic. It wasn't a choice. I didn't, my dad was on the school committee for both the town of Plainville and then a regional school committee, King Philip. And so one year I tried to go to a public school, and I'm going from a class of 13 kids in grade 6 up in the woods to a school of 1,000. And socially, I couldn't adjust. I lasted a few months. And then my dad, in the school, this is back in the late 60s, early 70s. In the school, everybody, I didn't play basketball, but they put me on the all-star team in the middle school. And, there's a lot of things I didn't do, but people, because my dad was in school, they were trying to do all these things to help me adjust, and I just couldn't. But there were some comments made about, failing schools. And we have people that are invested in our schools that work really hard. Many people here tonight. There's a lot of reasons why, and I heard some comments made about Massachusetts. There's a lot of reasons why, a lot of moving parts and variables. I think that, the way we've been working with distributed leadership and really listening to voice at all levels, I think we're moving in the right direction. But specifically around CTE, I'd love to be able to invest. We have science labs that are 1972. And, you know, we have a biomed program. We have a lot of resources. We have great people. But when it comes to other resources in our buildings, and, you know, we were talking about in our budget meeting, we struggle. We haven't had the resources to invest. And I'm hoping that tide's turning. You know, we have to, as a committee, as administration, as a community, we have to take some strong stands. But the point of bringing that up was because of how we lose individuals really when we have our own programs. And I just wanted to say, there was a meeting with the Superintendent's Association that there's been a lot of talk about, you know, if we have a program not allowing, you know, students, like if you don't like your English teacher, you try to work it out. If we have issues with our English program, we work it out. You know, we're doing a lot of work around curriculum. But we don't have school choice where if you don't like English, you go someplace else. However, there's the opinion, you know, that, or the interpretation of the regulations that we have school choice when it comes to CTE. And we've never said that students shouldn't be able to go. If we don't have an agricultural program, they should be able to go and get an agricultural program. But today with at a RISA meeting, there was a strong collective voice that all the superintendents there agreed, including superintendents of schools where many students are leaving schools to go there, agreed that if you have a program, students should have to go to that program. So there will be legislation that's put forth. I have no idea how long that'll take, if it'll go, but I feel that, you know, that's the first time that that's happened. RISA's been divided, and we found out that the Warwick superintendent, who I've been meeting with, he's putting in his own legislation through his own legislators just to address Warwick, because they are losing over $2.5 million. I think just, you know, to North Kingston, other communities. So as a superintendent, when I have right now, because of that, I'm going to hold off on signing for programs when people want to go when we have the program. Because my concern is if I sign off and the legislation passes, will they come back and try to litigate that? So just so you know, that's going to be a change, but that's going to be effective immediately. And that's going to be my practice, because I feel that for the first time, it's finally going to have an opportunity for us to, you know, to stand behind that. Whereas in the past, we were told we couldn't stand behind it because if we go to RIDE, A, we'll have to hire a different attorney, and B, they'll hold our state aid. So I just wanted to talk about that. I know I threw a lot out there, but, you know, we have great people. We're working really hard. We always have things we can work on, no doubt about it. But I feel like we're working in unison. We don't always agree, whether it's my administrative team or working with, you know, our building administrators or working with the union, but we agree to keep on dialoguing till we come up with a win-win scenario. And that's something that I think will get us where we need to be. So that's all I have to say. I'm done. Turn the mic off.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to follow up. Last night I was at a meeting, RIASC, the chairs across the state meet, and there were some municipal leaders there as well, and that whole subject of, you know, communities basically kind of eating each other, you know, and even if you have a newer facility, people like, I think the gal from Pawtucket actually was saying, you know, she's being encouraged to try to draw from the surrounding communities, and she doesn't want to do that because as a school committee member, she knows she doesn't want to be on that end where other communities are suffering because they're gonna try to attract kids to come to this new school. And again, the facilities in some places may be newer, but the programs are similar. So in the Pathways program is what's really was discussed as one of the real killers for this sort of free choice. Let the kids go wherever they want. And the whole athletic thing that kids are going to different communities, saying it's a pathway program they're trying to choose, but it's really all about the athletics. They want to be on a good team or a better team, or someone's actually recruiting them for athletics. And that's just not how we want to do business in Rhode Island, I don't think. And so I agree. I think it's wise to, you know, I think you're right not to go along with any request anymore. So. Any other comments or concerns that you want to address? I guess we can move on to citizens' comments. Are there any citizens' comments from the citizens gathered? questions, anything? Nothing, huh? Okay, are we ready to schedule the next meeting? Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that the next meeting of the school committee be scheduled for Thursday, February 28, 2019, at 6 PM at Coventry Town Hall.
Second motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 3-0. Moving on to adjournment, and I have 7:35.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that the meeting be adjourned at 7:35 PM.
Second motion?
And my only comment to that is they all knew that Mr. Levis was sick and he needed to come home early, so we're an early ending of our meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 3-0. Thank you, everyone, for coming.